Hello and welcome to another episode of The Shout with myself, Mark Carlaw from the West Ham Way. Well, we're coming off the back of a big result of the weekend, 2-2 draw with Manchester City. One that I'm still kind of puzzled about, really, because I wasn't expecting it. I think, although I thought we'd give them a tough game, I just thought we were fantastic. And also, the emotions of that day as well with Mark Noble, really, really special. And obviously now that sort of leads us into our final game of the season with Brighton, which is obviously now, there's so much riding on it, which I didn't think would be the case, but there is, and it's exciting. And I, quietly confident that we might actually be able to pull off a sixth place spot. This week, I'm going to be joined by Holly Worthington. She works for West Ham. Most people know her. She's always involved around the ground and doing lots of media stuff. And also, I think she works for Blowing Bubbles magazine as well. So Holly will be joining us shortly. We're going to be talking about the Manchester City game, talking about Mark Noble in particular. Also, I want to talk about Jarrod Bowen as well. I think he really does deserve a mention. And, not only for his progress this season, but the fact that, how pivotal he is in this, to our team. And I really think as well, he's now worthy of that England call-up. So we'll be talking about that with Holly. We're also going to be talking about our top 6 chances. I mean, realistically, we're going to do it. As I say, I'm quite confident, quietly confident. But, let's wait and see. I'll see what Holly has to say about that. And another sort of controversial topic I want to discuss is the refereeing standards. I personally thought that Anthony Taylor was really poor in the game against Man City. It just seems to be now like a common thread with referees every week, poor performance after poor performance. And I just think Taylor's was really bad. And it came at a time when I just felt that, it's such an important part of the season. It's clear that, we need things to be called fairly. And the question is it being called fairly? I'm not so sure. It'd be interesting to see what Holly's take is on that. Also, then we'll talk about a few other bits and pieces coming up for the shows ahead. And also, we've obviously got the big summer transfer window coming up, which is going to be very interesting. So, right, Holly's now ready to join us. So, let's welcome Holly to the show. Holly, how are you doing?
Really good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Not too bad. Obviously, really happy after the result of the weekend, which I was just saying. I thought it was quite unexpected, to be honest. I didn't really go into it with any real expectation we get much from the game, especially with City chasing for the title. How about yourself?
Yeah, exactly the same. I knew how important even 1 point would be from that game. So to have actually got something from that, I was definitely not expecting it. We know how hard City can be, and I was expecting our team to be struggling a bit more after the Europa League and then against Norwich. Yeah, so definitely take a point. Yeah,
I mean, it's great. I mean, as well, it's just so good that we can raise our game like that. It shows that this isn't just a flash in the pan, this team. We seem to be able to really raise and match the top sides. And although it's all right, we have lacked a little bit in consistency at the end of the season, as we say with the Europa, I think was played a part in that. But yeah, it's just brilliant. And what did you think of the Mark Noble farewell?
It's emotional, wasn't it? Not ashamed to say that I shed a tear.
Yeah, I think we all did, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. Had a little glance around, saw everyone else crying their eyes out as well. But just such an amazing guy, such an amazing person to have around the dressing room, amazing for fans. You don't get players like that often. And yeah, it's going to be really strange, I think, not having him around. I know he's not played as much, but you still feel like he's a really big part of that team. So it's going to be different, I think, without him even on the bench.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the club play it, I think, especially with the whole Declan Rice, captaincy thing. I mean, because let's be honest, they do need to announce, who his replacement as permanent captain is going to be. And let's be honest, it has to be Rice. But with the speculation surrounding him at the moment, you do kind of wonder when that's going to happen. Is it going to be straight away? Because let's be honest, if let's say they do it immediately after the Brighton game, I think it would settle a lot of nerves with fans. I think that would kind of confirm that Rice is going to be here next season at least. So I wonder if that's going to happen. What do you think?
Yeah, we just want that commitment, don't we, to give us a bit more confidence in him staying. I'm still positive that Rice is going to stay for a little while longer. But yeah, I think hearing that officially would put my nerves at ease a little bit.
Yeah, it's exactly the same for me, to be honest. I mean, I'm like you. I'm actually confident he's going to stay. From what I know from behind the scenes at the club, or what I've heard at least anyway, is that there's an agreement there anyway. The West Ham aren't going to sell. There's no desire there at all. I don't think anyone's going to come in for the money that we're asking anyway. And the fact he's got 3 years still to go and he's contracted. I mean, there's no rush for the club to start, moving him on. So let's just hope that, they can make that announcement, because that'd be great, especially just before the summer.
Definitely. And we've all seen how professional Rice is as well. So I think even although everyone says that he needs to move on at some point to further his career and stuff, we know that we will get the best out of him for as long as he is at the club. And we're showing the ambition now. So hopefully he's not in any rush to leave.
That's the key, isn't it? The ambition is that is going to be the key for Rice. I think that's been quite clear throughout this whole sort of saga, really, that he just wants to see ambition at the club. So I think it's just that it's over to the board now. It's over to the club, isn't it? To say, look, this is your chance. Go and show Rice this is the club to be at. And I think it's just, we know they've let us down numerous times and things like this, but I just think this is one they can't afford to this time.
Definitely. And now is the time that we've got to invest. When you look at what we're managing to do, when you look at how much we're desperate for more squad depth, when you look at how we're going to keep Rice, all of these factors sum up to one thing, and it's basically a big transfer window this summer. So hopefully,
I know. I'm excited. I try not to ask X too much about it because I think you just get sick of me asking him. But I'm quietly confident this is going to be quite a good summer for us. I just think that there's going to be. I mean, at the end of the day, they've got to bring in some arrivals because we've got players going. I mean, obviously, we've mentioned Noble, Yarmolenko's going. I think there's going to be a couple of defenders. Probably Fredericks looks likely to move on. So that could straight away, that's 3 or 4 players that you think they've got to bring in anyway. And then you've got to add to the depth and also add a bit of quality. So, and also, as we said, the elusive striker that we never, ever seem to sign. I mean, that's got to be done this summer, surely.
Definitely. And when you look at Yarmolenko, Fredericks, these were the people that have been on our bench that are pretty much the only people that could kind of come on and arguably change the game in some better way. So we've got to really get players in that it feels like maybe we just need the squad depth, don't we? So that we can change things when a game isn't going our way, rather than bringing someone on and being like, they're only a tiny bit worse than what we've already got on, but their legs are tired. We need those players that are going to come on and do that. And if we can invest properly this summer, I'm really confident for what we can do. Because like you said, it's not a flash in the pan. Like we have been doing well. We've had some blips where we've gone down, but we've actually picked it back up again as a team, which is something that we've always struggled with, where we kind of get into and struggle. But for once, it looks like we're actually able to turn it around. But you've got to have those players to be able to do it consistently.
Well, that's the difference, isn't it? When you look at the top sides, okay, of course we're not in the realms of City and Liverpool, we know that, but it's not so much about the quality of players, as you say, it's that depth. I mean, obviously we want to add quality, and that will come with success over time. But you're right, that's where the difference is in the squads. I mean, if they get bad injuries, they lose 2 or 3 players, it doesn't really affect them too much. They can deal with it, they can recover from that injury and then keep going. I think, we all kind of knew that we were going into the second half of the season light with the lack of business. And I think it just showed at the end, with the amount of games we're getting. I think we went further than we expected in the Europa. And I think it just took its toll. We could see those Thursday Sunday games, and especially picking up the injuries that we had especially to the central defence. It just cost us dearly in the end. And you look back at games like Brentford and Burnley, there's sort of games that we had, and you look back and think that we really slipped up there. Just a couple of more wins, and we'd have been right in with potential for top 4 this season.
Definitely. And in terms of who we could bring in as well, I don't think we've ever been in a better position where players might not want to leave us because we're actually showing that we can achieve great things. You also look around at, say, even people talking about when Rice does leave because he wants to win things. When you look at the amount of clubs that are actually going to win things, but that would actually play the players that we could give them, it's not necessarily that attractive. Like, people can go to Arsenal or Spurs, but what's actually promised there necessarily not any more than we can give at the moment. And then you look at who we could get in, and hopefully West Ham are now looking more of an attractive proposition in terms of getting new talent in. So I think this is that turning point where we either go one way or the other. So
I agree. And I'll tell you what, another thing I was thinking about today, we're going to talk about it. I might as well talk about it now, actually, Jarrod Bowen. I mean, for me, I was actually quite close to voting him Hammer of the Year. I did give it to Rice. I think Rice just had to be given it because of his, he's so consistently brilliant. And, I just don't think he did, he couldn't have been denied it. But for me, Bowen was a close second. Now, obviously, there's a lot of talk now of Bowen being called into the England squad, which I think is more than deserved now. I think he's, these goals and assists this season have warranted that. He needs to be given a chance. And I generally think he should be going to the World Cup, personally. I know that's a bit of a biased view, but I think it's true.
I agree.
I actually think that's also going to be key in keeping Rice. Having another West Ham player in that England camp will really help, because I think that also plays a part, that Rice goes to these England camps and he's surrounded by players that are winning Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues, and they're all doing it pretty much. And it must be a conversation that happens in that dressing room. Not to say that we haven't been succeeding, because we have been, but there must be conversations amongst them, and it must be happening that you're feeling like, yeah, that's where I want to be. Actually, that sounds a little bit more attractive, in terms of what they're competing for. So I think it wouldn't harm us at all to have another West Ham player representing, in that dressing room. I think it will really help, and I think that again that might, and especially if we can get Bowen to sign a new deal, which is, I'm hearing a lot of talk about that at the moment, and I think X has confirmed that today as well. The club have open talk, so I think that would be, if we could tie Bowen down, that's another big tick, I think, to keeping Declan.
Yeah, they're the little steps, aren't they, that I think are going to start separating us from the big clubs. And if we can actually sort these things out, maybe it won't seem such a tempting offer to just go elsewhere for the sake of it, when there's not actually any more hope of doing well at the moment. So, yeah, fingers crossed, something like that would be absolutely brilliant. And obviously just seeing another West Ham player getting recognised. I don't know what more Bowen could have done this season, to be honest. He came back from injury, smashed it again. Yeah. I don't know he could do to get into that England squad.
I agree. Well, he actually was close, I think, to being called up, wasn't he? He got that injury right before the squad was announced. So I'm pretty sure he was in it. I'll be very surprised if he wasn't. So there's no real reason for him not to be in it now. I mean, they've only got some friendlies coming up. It's not like there's big competitive matches. It's the perfect time to throw him in. And as you say, to have two West Ham players in the England squad would just be amazing. I think what the Europa's done for the club in terms of the status, I just think that will help as well. Just two West Ham big players, because let's be honest, Bowen not only will be in the squad, I think he should be maybe not necessarily a starter, but he'll be a key player. And I think that's really important, and it's just exciting for the club.
Definitely, we're absolutely massive, showing it around the world.
Absolutely. So Manchester City performance, you were really pleased with it, yeah? What was your sort of overall thoughts on the game?
Really happy. I mean, like we were saying, I didn't really expect us to get anything from the game. If we could have got 1 point, I'd have been delighted if you'd asked me before the game. When we went 2-0 up, obviously incredible performance from Bowen. Couldn't quite believe it was happening, but in the back of my head, I still knew what City are capable of. So there was still the fear. And then once they got that goal back early in the second half, I was terrified that we were about to lose, but I think we absorbed the pressure well. It's always going to be very difficult. But overall, I think we sort of tactically did well. We put a real shift in as well. You could see every single player giving it everything, which I think as West Ham fans, that's all we ask for, isn't it? Just 100%.
Absolutely. And I think like you, when we went to the second half, there was always that. I remember saying to the people I was with that if we can just hang on for the first 10-15 minutes at 2-0, I think their confidence will start to wane. I think they might start getting a bit frustrated and panicky. And it was just inevitable they would score immediately. You just thought, once it went in, you thought, oh, here we go. I thought we dug in well, and obviously the drama of the late last minute penalty was just amazing.
So much stress involved with football, isn't there? But
we just don't do it easy, West Ham, do we? It's just not. No. We don't do it that way ever.
Never. It's more fun our way.
Exactly. Obviously, we're going to the final game of the season, Brighton. A massive game now, and I think I'm quietly confident. That one, we're going to put the hoodoo, to bed with Brighton, because I think it's 4 years now they've been in the Premier League. And we haven't beaten once. I mean, it's ridiculous. Okay, I know we're in for a tough game. I'm making no illusion it's going to be tough. But I've really got a feeling we're going to get 3 points. And if we do, is it enough for top six? I think it might be. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I feel the odds are in our favour, I think, with all this. There's only so many times you can be beaten by Brighton, right? Hopefully. I
know. No disrespect to Brighton. They're a good side. They are. And Graham Potter's done a fantastic job there. But at the end of the day, these are teams we've got to be beating. If we want to be a top, European club contender, if we want to be pushing for top four, these are matches, especially when we've got to win, especially at their place now. I'd like to think they haven't got overly too much to play for now. I know they obviously league position slightly and they want to finish above Crystal Palace, but ultimately, are they going to be going into this guns blazing? I'm not sure. I think this is a good time to plan.
I'm hoping, exactly the same. And while they have been a bit of a bogey team for us, these are the ones that we do have to beat. And it's not like they're unstoppable or technically brilliant. There's a lot that we can do. And how we're actually playing football, when you compare it to previous seasons, we are so much better and so much more organised. So I feel really positive about it. And then obviously we just need United to drop some points against Palace, which isn't easy, and they're all over the place at the moment. So
well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, I'd fancy Palace to win that match. Look, not alone, I'd be very surprised if Manchester United go there and win. Palace have been really good this season, and I just think, it's kind of shaping up. But as long as we do our job, and like you say, we're a good side these days. And just if we put in a professional performance, I can't really see us not winning that match because the fact we have to. And let's be honest, we're going into it pretty much injury free. I think Bonner's the only one that's going to be out. I've heard Ben Rama's going to be in the squad as well, so that'll be a big lift for us. So and the fact it's the last game of the season, you've got nothing. You can talk about the holidays afterwards. They can go away and have their break. So one final push, and we might be in Europa again, which is just ridiculous to say.
Imagine. Who would have thought it as well at the start of the season, and then after the last transfer window when we didn't invest, to see how well we've done in Europa League, but to also be in with a shout to have it again next season. We've definitely got obviously European football with Conference League, but get Europa League. How exciting.
Well, I said to someone at work the other day, like West Ham in my life have always been, well, for the majority of it, have been the sort of the anchor, the sort of thing that have sort of dragged me down. And, and it's like, it's been hard to sort of like deal with it. Many seasons we've had so much disappointment and, heartache.
Yeah.
And then we've obviously had these really, in terms of what was going on in the world, these sort of terrible times, COVID, and obviously we've got a war situation going on and all these stresses going on and, cost of living now, and it just never ended. But West Ham have been like the light in it. You know what I mean? It's so bizarre that it's flipped over now. And I'm actually I really love football at last. Last 2 years, it's just non-stop joy. And I just feel like it's the way we're set up. As long as we keep things, keep Moyes and we keep things going the way they are, I can't see it changing. I really can't. There's no reason why it should.
Yeah, completely agree. And we've got so many players that are talented. And if we can just strengthen that squad, I don't see any reason it can't keep going in the same direction, but onwards and upwards. And it's great, isn't it? Like you were saying as well there, it just feels like football. It's just a completely different experience, isn't it, at the moment? Sort of.
I actually look forward to watching football. I mean,
I
know. Most of the time West Ham would lose, and I wouldn't want to watch another game all weekend and think, oh no, match of days on. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to think. I didn't want to read about it. But now it's like I just can't wait. Every ounce of it, I just want to watch and absorb it. It's just brilliant. It's just such a great time to be a West Ham fan.
And also just even silly things. Like I've got a lot of friends, unfortunately, but still love them, that are Spurs fans, and barely heard many of them about football in the last few months. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, I know, it's fantastic, isn't it? It really is. Yeah, and I like the fact that we're, like you, I've got a few Arsenal and West Tottenham fans and things like that, and usually they're quite happy to talk about football around me and sort of, and now it's almost like, and also it's like when we were doing quite well, we had a decent result of the weekend, they kind of give you like an well done, but now they're annoyed. It's like we're a fool in their side, and I think it's just great to finally be mixing it with some the big clubs. It's just at long last.
I know, and it doesn't feel like a fluke either, does it?
No. Like I did think it was. I'll be honest. I think once when we had that, the first season, although don't get me wrong, we played really well, but it just felt like because we had that relegation scrap, and we I think the 4-0 result at Norwich, wasn't it? Where I think Antonio scored 4, if I remember rightly, and we seemed to just carry that momentum on. We were doing really well, and it kind of reminded me of when we got promoted under Pardew. That sort of momentum, we just kept getting results everywhere, and I thought this is great. I enjoy it while it lasts. Eventually, it'll fall apart. But now, like you say, it's not that. You could just sense that, hang on, this is our second season of this. We've got a very, very good squad. And even the games that we do play, not particularly great, we always seem to somehow pull out a result, get a draw, or, even a win. Sometimes we've got a win and not played that great. And I just think that's a sign of a very, very good side. It's fantastic.
Even our goal difference kind of says it all, that we are grinding out those results. Even when it's 1 point that we're getting, we are working hard to try and not just open the floodgates and concede a load of goals. Exciting times at the club.
It is, isn't it? It is. Let's talk about something a bit controversial, actually, from the Man City game. I did tweet about this. I'm not sure you saw it, but about the referee, Anthony Taylor.
Yeah.
It's getting to a stage with these referees where I just feel like an investigation's needed now. Like, it can't just be a coincidence that these refs are that bad or making these bad, because you was at the game, wasn't you? Holly, you was there. Where I sit right in front of. I'm right in the court by the corner flag, by the away fans, and the referees. I'm not joking. Probably 10 feet from me. I'm sorry, the linesman. And I'm telling you, right? There was a chance when City whipped in a corner. I watched it, or a cross. Sorry, it went over to the far side. None of us could see what happened. You could see that the two players went up and it went off the goal pit, off out of the play. And our defenders put their hands up to say goal kick and kind of accepted it as a goal kick. The linesman looked around, looked at the ref. Nothing was said, and just pointed to a corner. And I just thought, you've literally just made that up. You didn't see what happened because you couldn't have done because you've got the same view as me. And then obviously I was watching Anthony Taylor throughout the match, like we all were, making these bizarre decisions. And you just get to a point and think, what's going on? Like, is it really a conspiracy? Are they gearing up to make sure that certain teams get the fair advantage? And I just think it's getting to a point where it's just a bit too obvious to ignore now.
I agree. In that game as well, it literally felt like every single decision just went against us. And we had it against Lyon at home as well, didn't we? Where it just felt like nothing was going our way. I think it's really difficult as well because you wonder how much like the referee or whatever doesn't want to be part of maybe how the top teams end up finishing and don't want to sort of upset anyone, how much of it is crowd noise and pressure like that gets to them. But there's a bit of a lack of transparency in the decision making and a bit of a lack of accountability that I've always felt would help people to make sure they were making the fair decisions. But there have been so many occasions where it does feel like everything's against us, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I know they've got a tough job. I'm not saying that, and it's all corrupt and they're going out there, but it just feels that sometimes, especially when you witness things like that performance, whether what I'm saying is if there's a 50-50, do they just kind of go, look, I don't really know, I'm going to just go with the big side. And maybe it is that we've experienced it, as you say, in the Europa League. I just wonder if the big clubs get that kind of little bit of favouritism because it's a better advert. Let's be honest. It's a better advert for the Premier League if the top four is a Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, rather than a Burnley, Watford. Yeah. It wouldn't be a good advert. And I'm not saying that that's definitely the case, but it just feels that, like you said, the lack of accountability is a problem. They seem to just sort of have these horrendous performances and just stroll off, and then next week he'll be announced at a big game or even go into a bloody World Cup or something. And I don't know, I'll just get to the point, I'm getting to that stage now where I think it just needs a reform. The whole thing needs looking at properly and making the game more fair.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as well, obviously, we've seen the introduction of VAR, then we've seen rule changes to try and make that better. There's a long way to go, I think, to make it so that it all functions well. But so that the decisions are actually sort of looked at properly and not just parts of it. But if there's a certain rule that means that they then don't go to VAR, there are so many occasions where going to VAR when they don't would make sense. And I just think it needs a bit of a restructure and a rethink to be more fair.
Yeah, I completely agree. It definitely needs looking at. So what were your thoughts on his performance, Taylor? Obviously you felt a bit frustrated about it. Is that how you know?
I mean, I was sitting a bit further back for this game, so I obviously didn't have as much of a good view as you, but it did feel like every single ball, like I could see some went off and should have been our throw and it went to the others. So it did feel like everywhere on the pitch decisions were going against us that should have been the other way around. And you can really tell when you have those games as well, but you can see when you see the whole crowd literally like go mental at a decision.
Yeah. And there was a fair few times that happened, wasn't it?
A lot of times. And it's times like that where I was thinking in the back of my head, maybe the ref will sort of feel the pressure from that and go the other way, but that didn't happen.
No, it didn't quite work. No. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's just something that needs looking at. The season's coming up, and as you say, they've introduced VAR, which again I don't really think it's added that much value. Really, I mean, I think we was all hoping it would level the playing field. If anything, I think it confuses matters because it seems to me that a decision one week will be different the next, and it's the exact same thing that's happened, and you kind of can't quite work it out. And especially the offside rule, I just find that so confusing. Yeah. This sort of bizarre lines they do, and if it's just a slight millimetre over, I mean, at the end of the day, for me, it's supposed to be clear and obvious. If it's clearly offside, fair enough. If it's basically on line inside, that should be it, surely.
Yeah, if you're measuring those millimetres, I think you're going too far. Because then didn't they say that it was like in line with the sleeve? But then, like, why would you not wear a really tight sleeve so that it's higher up near the armpit? And then, like,
also, the sleeve's not you, is it? The sleeve isn't the person. So what's that about? It's just bizarre, and I don't understand it. I find it such a peculiar system at the moment. And I was listening to the West Ham podcast earlier, and it was And they basically saying, if you look at the other sports in the world, they never seem to have these problems, really. I mean, all right, they might get the odd decision that's a bit odd, but ultimately they never seem to. It seems to always be very fair, very straightforward. We all get it. And I appreciate football's a little bit more complex as a sport, but it shouldn't be this bad. It shouldn't be a conversation basically we have every week. I'd love to say. I think it needs
when
to
you know it's going wrong. Well, when we obviously had goal line technology come in, everyone was going, will it help, will it not? But that's more of a black and white answer, whether it went over that line or not. I think the problem is, as soon as it goes to VAR and the ref goes over to that monitor, you know that they're going to change their mind, because there's the pressure, there's someone in their ear telling them that they have missed something, and then they're viewing it in slow motion on a screen. Of course, you'll then see that bit of contact. And if you can't deny that contact's happened, then it ends up going to a penalty or whatever. But it's difficult, because I think there's no right or wrong answer, but you kind of end up going to loads of people's opinions, when at the end of the day, it's still the same referee that saw the initial incident, but didn't
That's
think
exactly it. You've hit the nail on the head. Exactly. So, as you say, they introduced this technology effectively to say we're going to take away the human error, but then the human is making a decision at the end with the technology. So it's like, well, what's the point? And I just think, for me, just make it so it's just like they said that it would be, for clear and obvious errors. So if the refs completely miss something, it's completely offside, fair enough. It just feels like a bit of a witch hunt every time there's a goal, desperately trying to find a reason to deny it. And let's be honest, the reason we watch football is goals. And all right, it's painful when it goes against you, but it's a real shame the way it goes now. Like even now, unless it's a clearly obvious goal now, if a cross comes in, the head it in, I'm always like, don't celebrate yet. I'm always a little bit anxious if they're offside and all that kind of stuff. It's a real shame.
Yeah, and you see a player go down and you're thinking, like, please, can there not have been any contact? And even when players are going in for tackles, you can see how worried they are about slightly touching someone's knee in case they then go down and VAR then gives that penalty. So I don't know, it's changing the game a lot, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is. I mean, it'd be something it's interesting to see where this is all going to go. I mean, I think VAR is here now, and we're not going to get rid of that. And and I don't mind that, because it has got its benefits, and I'm not saying it's all negative, but I just think there's a lot of work still to be done with the game, and especially now with the referees, I think it does need a bit of a looking at. So if you have to talk about the summer, I mean, we've got one more game to go, and then we go into the transfer window. There's going to be so much speculation about who we're going to be going with. Obviously, we're linked with everybody. Anyone in your mind that sort of springs to mind that you'd really like to see West Ham go for?
I've got to say, I know there's a lot of rumours about a lot of players around at the moment, but there aren't any that particularly stick out to me. I think obviously we need a striker, and we want it to be a physical striker that can probably switch in and out with Antonio. But there's no one that I've desperately been like, I want that exact player. At one point, I really wanted Calvert-Lewin to come into the team. Like, there've been a lot of names out there that I've been like, they could be good for this reason or that reason. But at the moment, I'm open to persuasion. Who are you after?
I mean, like you, there's no one immediately that springs to mind. I mean, when I'm talking about a striker in that sense. I mean, Brozier for me, I'm quite keen on. I think he showed, especially, maybe this tail end of the season has not been overly brilliant, but I think he's proven to be a very, very good player. He's highly rated by Chelsea. I think they've got a 50, 60 million price tag on his head. So he's definitely a good player, and I think he kind of fits what we want. He's powerful, he's fast. I think he'd fit in our play very well. Also, talk of Holly Watkins. I don't think that'd be a bad striker for us at all. He's a good player. And, he's fast, and I think he'd suit us. I think whatever we do, we've just got to make, like you said, I think if we're going to get someone, it's got to be a very much proven, decent striker. I don't want to see too many gambles and risks go abroad and, we did really well in French League 2 or something. We don't want that. We want someone to come in and go, this person can guarantee, as long as they're fit, will guarantee you 20 goals a season. I think that's what we need straight away. Yeah,
and we saw what happened with Allaire. We brought him in. He didn't work in our system. He's gone away and he's an amazing footballer, which we knew from the beginning. But if a player doesn't fit in what you're doing, it doesn't really matter how talented they are. And for the same reason, I think Moyes has been very picky about who's brought in. And I'm hoping that that's the reason that we haven't made these signings, and that this is going to be that big window where we do that. But it will really help to have someone that's really physical, like a proper unit, because Antonio is a unique kind of player. And obviously he's had a goal drought, but he has worked fantastically for us. But he kind of does everything on his own up the top there. And there aren't many players that can do that. And now we've got these wingers that can get the ball in, and so many different sort of avenues to get the ball in that box. just getting that final piece of the puzzle is going to be key to us.
Absolutely, I agree. It's a position we've all been hoping to be filled. As you say, we sold Hilaire now. What was that, a couple of seasons ago now? And it's just got to the point where you think,
yeah,
we have to get this right. It's so important. And you say we can't have another season where we're relying on Antonio week in, week out, especially with European football again. And he's not getting any younger. He can't. He's going to burn out eventually. And I mean, we've been very lucky this season with his injuries because he hasn't really, touched wood. He hasn't been injured. So it's
miracle.
I can't believe it, honestly. When we didn't sign anyone else, I just thought, well, he's only going to last a week, and then he's out for 6 months. So we've been really fortunate, I think, in that regard. I know that they've been working hard at, and changing his diet and his training methods and things, which has obviously worked. But there's no more excuses now that this needs addressing. And also the fact we've got Rob Newman involved at the club now, who's been here for quite some time. Or let's be honest, let us down, I would say, in January. But maybe there was reasons behind that. And Moyes alluded to the fact, like you said, we're very picky with what we want. We don't just want to go and waste money. And credit where it's due, we've done well without that investment. But I think next season, especially what we were talking earlier about Rice and showing players that this is the club to be at, we've just got to get a decent striker in. Another player for me, I'll be honest, I'm very keen on if they get relegated, which I'm sadly think they will do, is Calvin Phillips of Leeds. I think that would be a real statement signing. Pairing Rice with Phillips in the midfield would be very exciting. And another player from West Ham, if we did sign him, let's say, another West Ham player in the England squad, I think that would be very, very important. And I think that's, if they do get relegated, I think that's got to be pretty much top of our list to go there and get that deal done.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And another player I was looking at as well was Aki. I've been a really big fan of him for years. And I think that he could be really good, obviously helping our defence out. But I wonder if he would now leave City. He's getting a bit more game time, I've noticed recently. But he could be another one that comes into us. But yeah, Phillips would be absolutely brilliant, I think, in that midfield. And I think he'd really fit into the system that we're building.
Absolutely. I agree. I think he'd be a great fit for West Ham. Also, I think his character as well. I think the fans would take to him really well. And there's no disrespect to Leeds because, I mean, we see videos on YouTube and things of Chelsea fans talking about Rice as if they've signed him already. And and it's really painful, and it can wind you up. So I don't, want to say that because I don't think that it's definitely not a done deal. And also they could stay up. And I think if they do stay up, it probably will stick at Leeds for longer. I'm just saying that I think if they do get relegated, that would be a sort of top target for me. But yeah, it's definitely an exciting summer coming up.
Yeah, definitely. I think I saw about, was it Tete from Olympique Lyonnais was saying, some people have been going on about him today as well. So I need to look more, need to watch some YouTube highlights is what I need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, I'm hearing about Nketiah as well. I mean, I'm not sure what the story is there regarding his Arsenal contract. I know it's up and I think they were looking to move him on or whatever. But I think they're desperate to keep him now. So I think that could be another exciting signing if we could get that over the line. Because it sounds to me that I think he's more keen now just to get playing football rather than sticking around and being a bit part. I think he wants to be sort of the main man.
When they signed him, it was massive. I remember I wrote an article when they literally just sort of, I think they gave him a new contract or something. I can't even remember. But he was literally like the next up and coming youngster. And then they just didn't really give him a chance. And then recently, obviously, he's got a lot more game time and he's been outstanding for them, but his contract's come to an end. I think he'd be a really good one because as well, he just seems one of those players that makes something happen out of nothing. And they're the kind of players that we need when we've got nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, we're going to be linked with everybody. We know we will be, and it's hard sometimes to get too excited because you just know what it's like. I mean, for me, until they put on the shirt, it's not done, is it? So, but yeah, it's going to be definitely a exciting summer coming up.
Definitely.
But, yeah, Holly, it's been brilliant talking to you.
Lovely to chat to you.
You take care, and I hope to have you on the show again soon. Yeah.
Cheers, definitely. Thanks so much, Mark.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. So, yeah, thanks to Holly there. I mean, it's been an incredible season. And as I've just said to Holly there, we've got a summer coming up now with some, key positions that need to be filled. And let's be honest, West Ham just have to spend the money now, show ambition. We know the reasons why. But before all that, we've got a huge game at Brighton coming up this Sunday. Let's do it. Let's just go and get that. Let's get that 6th spot. I think if we win at Brighton, we'll get it. I genuinely believe that. And I think it's time to put that hoodoo to bed. Thank you very much for watching the show and take care. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.